bubbling about. Ablett, well done. Menegola, they've got the monkey off their back. Can he kick a miracle goal? The little man, the second shortest man in the game, kicks the goal, and the Giants are in front.
Hello, I'm Damien Barrett. Welcome to Access All Areas, brought to you by Virgin Australia. The Cats and Giants fought their way into the preliminary finals at the expense of the reigning premiers and the Lions. And as I welcome Jimmy Bartell and Matthew Lloyd, an incident in each semi-final has dominated the headlines.
Yeah, the two big names, Tom Hawkins and Toby Green, probably the best players across the course of both games. They're both dominant in their position, so it's going to make for an interesting week.
It's Groundhog Day, isn't it? With Toby Green putting his hands in places they should not go. Last week it was Marcus Bontempelli, and this week it was Lachie Neale. It's the dominant theme out of the weekend, Jimmy. And you, as we always declare with you, you are a board member of the club Toby Green plays for. It's another bad moment. Yeah,
look, it's another week the Giants and Toby have to spend, trying to defend himself at the tribunal. As we look through the incident here, look, he'll have to go up, make his case.
We've just slowed it down here, Jimmy, just to try and make something out of these many hands that are around the face.
Yeah, exactly right. There's a big cluster of arms and legs going everywhere here. Look, he's been charged for misconduct. Look, a lot of it comes back to the suspension, the fact that now he has to get off, whereas last week there was no suspension and straight to the tribunal.
That's a difference, Lordo. He's got to overturn a case now. Last week it was just hearing a case. What do you feel will happen when he hits the tribunal?
Well, I spoke yesterday about how disappointed I was in Toby Green for that. There may not be enough to get him again, I said yesterday, but I hate the fact that there was two defenceless players, ball-winning players in Bontempelli and Neale, and that happens, Damo. So I just think that the term is unnecessary and unreasonable.
Unreasonable.
Eye contact. And on that doesn't look great for Toby Green because he is running or raking or whatever term you want to use his fist down the eyes of Lachie Neale.
From what I can tell, there's going to be no damning evidence from Lachie Neale presented either before or during the hearing itself. There will be an acknowledgement that there was action around his face, more to his nose.
Will he be asked, though, Damo, why he lay there afterwards?
Not necessarily.
Why
not necessarily.
Why not?
They rely on the medical report, which in isolation is not damning. Clearly, in my eyes, and I'm keen to get your views as well, the form, in inverted commas, of Toby Green, clearly in this space and just generally with on-field behaviour. To me, it's got him on this moment, and that doesn't actually make it wrong. He's had warnings.
Yeah, well, that's the big topic, I think, coming out of it. Does his reputation lead to this suspension? Because the problem is our system doesn't have that anymore. No. We don't have loading, you don't take previous record, and they've all got to be done in isolation. Obviously, a lot of people going back to the Bontempelli case the week before, but it shouldn't matter. As hard as it is, we've got to park it
I hear you.
And deal with it. But
this is Bontempelli last week, and this to me was worse than what he did to Lachie Neale, but they let him off.
Yeah, but we've got to understand too that, of course, there was going to be focus on Toby Green, especially around the contest after that week. There's going to be the added focus not only on his reputation, but what happened in the previous week. So everyone's going to be watching. Broadcasters are going to be zooming in, focusing on him around the contest.
But that makes it even more of a stupid act, to think that he can be wired in such a confrontational way to go and do the same act. Yeah. Are you, as a board member of the club, though, are you concerned about how he carries himself?
I'm not concerned about how he carries himself. I'm concerned about how he plays his football, and it's been nothing short of dominant in the last 8 weeks. Now, look, we've got to go up and make a good case for him and get him off because he has been given a week, but all we ask is just this case being treated with the lens of just this case.
Yeah, and that's a fair point. That's why it should be.
Yeah, and then I suppose it's just about how much force, I suppose, can they get that down, say, OK, we understand his fist is there, but is it enough force to miss a preliminary final?
The match review officer, Michael Christian, made this statement yesterday. This is totally in isolation of the incident from last week. It doesn't matter who was involved. I'm not buying that.
You wouldn't be looking for it you wouldn't be looking at all the contests if what happened the week before against the Bulldogs.
If it was Matt de Boer.
Or if anybody else, if it was Brent Daniels who kicked the match winner, you're not looking at him.
He's not going to the tribunal.
So, Damo, should he get a week then, in your opinion?
As weird as it sounds, I think he should. And I've thought about this overnight as much as anyone.
So why bring Chris O into it saying they just wanted to get him then? If you think then you're saying he deserved the week.
Because I think you do factor in the past. And while I normally do subscribe to the view that you deal with what's in front of you, he's had form. It was a contrived, in my feeling, outcome last week where it was allowed to go to the tribunal but have a fine played out. And he should have taken and heeded the warnings out of that.
Yeah. So you don't believe that they say they could not get probably the money shot in a sense of him on Bontempelli last week? raking the eyes, whereas in this week they say they could.
I reckon they're slowing down what we just showed.
Yeah.
You can see it's a clenched fist, but it's near the eye.
Yeah.
And it's got to be proven that's his hand. I know there's a lot of hands around there, but I think it's a lesser incident, but ultimately one that is going to be... And the difference is he has been given a week's suspension as it stands. He has to make sure the tribunal has to withdraw that charge. And this is the one that we're referring to there, and you can see the raking.
We're going to talk about his footy shortly. He was outstanding, but whether he gets off or he doesn't, let's hope for Toby's sake that we just don't see that act again, because it's just not right.
Yep. Not the only tribunal incident that we're going to be dealing with this week. Tom Hawkins, again inadvertently, long way off the ball on Will Schofield on Friday night. And I don't know how he's going to argue down that wasn't intentional contact to Schofield's head.
Well, this one's been graded a little bit more simpler than the Toby Green one. Intentional, high contact, low impact. And we can't argue with any of three of those, but Geelong have got to go up and make an argument on one of those cases. So it's very difficult. It's hard to get it down to careless, Lloydie, because it's so far off the ball. And trying to make an argument like you're jostling for position, that'd be tough. We can't argue it wasn't high contact. Schofield went down. And the impact. Schofield stayed down a fair bit. For 6 times, Tom Hawkins has been booked for striking twice previously this year, all in the tummy and fines, but still, he's got that in his game.
They'll have a crack at it, but deep down, Tom would probably be thinking, do we have to? Because I can't get out of this one.
I don't see how we can. 2 questions. Who comes into the 22 and how did they then cover for him in the game itself?
Well, Gary Rowan, if he's right, will probably come in, but the others that were sort of your first and second emergencies, Scott Selwood, whether he comes in the midfield, which allows some of those midfield types to play forward, or James Parsons, who plays that half forward up on the midfield sort of role.
Yeah, he actually just bring in his best available player and he'll just readjust the team. I'd actually love to see Harry Taylor go forward to play that Tommy Hawkins role. Mark Blixar's back to defence and then suddenly just bring in the next available player.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Britt Daniels goal, which won the game for GWS, I feel is one of the all-time great finals goals, given the moment in which it came. You can see the score, you can see the amount of time left in the game, you can see the explosive speed that he was able to display and then courageously take that banana option on that goal and win the game for the Giants.
Well, thought his way through in the heat of the battle, the noise, I guess that late in the game where fatigue affects your decision-making. The best bit is he took all his space. A lot of players there would probably try and line it up as soon as they picked it up, but just kept taking the ground until he felt comfortable, and a class finish on the run.
The Giants held firm in the last quarter down back. The ball was just being bombarded inside 50. There was a big number of pluses for inside 50 for the Lions over the Giants, but your key man stood up. Heath Shaw there, and then 2 big men, Nick Haynes and Phil Davis, and also Williams.
Yeah, Zach Williams, a big one-on-one contest. But what they were able to do is, even though they were under the pump, get enough pressure on the ball. So you have a look at a lot of these kicks coming in, apart from that one, massive one-on-one win there by Williams. But look at this, quick kicks in. This allows your defenders to peel off, take the best position. There was no easy inside 50. Look at these, they're all quick kicks, which this is what all your defensive group needs.
I think we're all falling in love with Haynes. He's been good for a long time, but we're recognising him now. But Toby Green, what a performance from Toby. We'll talk about the incident, but Green was dominant, and he was the best man on the ground, and he was dominant the week before as well. So he's a super player. He's the type of player you want in finals. Don't embarrass you, Jimmy. You were that type. Luke Hodge, built for finals football. He loves the contest. He kicks goals. He wins 30 possessions. Priceless players like that, and that's where heading to the MCG without him, it's worth 4 goals. I think they're down 5 goals by heading to the G against 90,000 people, Collingwood fans, but then another couple with Toby Green out.
It's what makes it so frustrating, is the freakish talent. As is Charlie Cameron, who got hurt early in the game, had his arm jammed between Hopper and Neil in an incident which forced him to leave the ground immediately and have serious treatment. He was in a lot of pain, and this is the incident itself. Jimmy, you can see the arm hyperextend there, and genuine damage and genuine pain was felt as a result of it. He came back onto the ground. Adam Kennedy went to him and started targeting the arm. We'll just listen to what Sean Ryan said about this moment.
Right in, please. Listen. Kennedy! If you knock his arm, Stefan, it's against the spirit of the game, okay? If you continually knock his arm, and I will pay a free kick. Now, you've been warned, okay? I've told you. If you're continually knocking his arm.
I think that's pretty good umpiring by Sean Ryan. You give the players the warning, you do it again. Look, the rule 17.12e, not in the spirit of the game, affecting an injured player. But the fact is he came straight back on the ground, I think within 2 minutes, taking a good grab. I know he was sore and a great effort for him to keep playing, but he's been declared fit to play. I understood that rule, Lloydie, to be, if you're in the hands of the trainer.
Yes.
You're coming off.
It needs to be changed.
Yeah, but there is another little catch-all in that where they're trying to get rid of the jumper punches or the punching in the back. I think it more suited that, and that would have been fair enough if Sean Ryan said, look, cut out the little niggly punches or else I'll pay the free kick.
I didn't think Kennedy did anything wrong.
No.
Cameron's on the field. He's a negative defender there trying to stop him, so I think it was a bit over the top from Sean Ryan.
Yeah, I like what he did, but I think he's taken the real too far. The Lions out in straight sets ultimately. A great season, but when you do lose home finals in consecutive weeks, one to Richmond and then on the weekend to the Giants, it ultimately is not what they planned.
No, and there's no guarantee you get back there either. We saw what happened to Melbourne, so they've got to be ruthless in the off-season to say, yep, it was a good season, but still at the end of the day, we didn't do well enough to win a final. So don't just rest on your laurels. Use Melbourne as an example that there's no guarantees for next year.
Lordy, twice before on Access All Areas, you've critiqued the Eagles' defence in previous weeks about how they've looked shaky, and again that was the in-key moment in this this semi-final against the Cats.
Yeah, this was a massive moment. McGovern's drop mark, the confidence you get from a guy getting fumbly and one of your key players in Jeremy McGovern, and poor Tommy Barrass, he doesn't know whether to come up at the ball, go behind the ball, and this one, just the pressure from Atkins' first quarter was significant for Geelong, just the pressure he maintained, and I just feel the Eagles, when they get the game on their terms, where they can shift the ball, and teams aren't pressuring enough, they're great. But I just think they've got to become a bit more tighter as a defence. McGovern I don't love as much as other people because I think at times he looks magnificent when the game is on the Eagles' terms, and when it's not, he can get exposed.
Yeah, and what the Cats did really well, Damo and Lloydie, is they got the ball a lot deeper, so it actually put the pressure on McGovern and Barrass actually. They had to go defend instead of going and picking off the ball. We saw Atkins almost play a little bit of a defensive role on McGovern, but Ratugolea and Hawkins, last week, no goals, barely any marks. This week, they've had 8 contested marks and 7 goals between them. So we look at the highlights here. Look how deep they are. They're within 30 metres of goal. Their willingness to take the contest on and force those big key defenders of West Coast to actually defend.
Just on that, Geelong, full credit to their midfield. Joel Selwood, who we'll get to very shortly, brilliant in there. Obviously, the way they just played on Damo, they didn't do that. They were too safe with the ball. They shifted the ball. They changed the angles, and that allowed for deeper entries, as Jimmy said.
Ratugolea looks great in this highlighted package, but he's going to have to do it, as we see it, without Hawkins. It's not going to be as easy for him next week, is it?
No doubt about that. So we'll see what he's made of this week.
Joel Selwood has been used differently this year. We've discussed it regularly as an industry. Back into the heat of the action for most of the game on the weekend, and it benefited him, it benefited his team, it benefited Cam Guthrie too, who also was big. Yeah,
the midfield splits or whatever percentage time, Joel's been probably 70% on the outside, the wing, half forward, half back flank, and 30% inside. But that got reversed on the weekend, which was right in his wheelhouse. It gave him his starting points. He was able to work his way through the contest. And you mentioned Cam Guthrie, almost a career high in recent years, 30 plus possessions, but it was the balance in Cam Guthrie's game that was really impressive. 33 disposals, 8 clearances, but 4 inside 50s, 4 rebounds. So it's that actually getting back and forward, which without Hawkins, and as we mentioned earlier, Dangerfield, Selwood, Ablett, all these sort of guys are going to have to spend more time forward. So then you can replace their time with the likes of a Cam Guthrie around the ball if they're in this sort of form.
Do you leave him there, Lordy, now, as in Selwood for this week?
Yeah, no, I would for sure. Yeah. Against Richmond, Dusty Martin, Trent Cotchin, Dion Prestia, Kane Lambert, the list goes on. I want Selwood in there. To me, he's looked a little bit lost. He's lost his effect on the game due to being on the wing. I think this is where he's at home. And, he's a brilliant player. And just on that, Damo, just Dangerfield's role on the weekend, Elliot Yeo got hold of him on the inside. But his ability to be able to go forward into space just exposed. So we'll take a look at some of the marks that Danger took against Elliot Yeo. Not many players can do this, can say, OK, you're getting me here. It's like Matt De Boer, for example. If Matt De Boer, he nails everyone. But Dangerfield is rare in that he go, come Matty De Boer, come with me to the forward line and I'll try and get you inside 50. So that's where he's a rare talent, Paddy Dangerfield.
The form of Josh Kennedy for the Eagles still kicked nearly 50 goals on the season, but it just wasn't the Josh Kennedy that we've come to know, and had a poor semi-final.
Well, I think he just fluctuated with the Eagles' fluctuations throughout the year. When they were good, he was absolutely firing, along with Darling. But, the quicker ball movement, they needed coming in pretty fast. Look, they were a bit slow on the weekend. As you highlighted, though, he's still kicked 49 for the year in his 22 games. Managed to get through a full year. Recent years, he's had a few injury problems, so... Look, I think it was he was played really well by the Cats, who are the #1 defence. So he's not the only key forward to get, not get many touches against that Cats backline who play that stifling game style.
And guys, with 2 massive preliminary finals at the MCG this weekend, make sure you're prepared before you catch public transport to the AFL at the MCG. Plan your journey at ptv.vic.gov.au/getmetothe-game. It's Richmond versus Geelong on Friday night and Collingwood hosting the Giants on Saturday twilight. Let's start with Friday. What are your early thoughts?
Well, speed for both sides. We just highlight on the Cats. When they play quicker, they give their forwards a real opportunity and they look a lot better. They don't have to play ballistic pace, but just a bit quicker, so then they can give their forwards a chance and their backline still to come marching up. But for me, Lloydie, the speed of the Tigers, that surging the ball forward, that constant handball, that's how you expose a Geelong backline who like to get really set and really rigid in where they set up behind the game.
Yeah, Richmond comfortably, don't they?
Richmond
comfortably.
Yeah. And Collingwood GWS, what's the key to that one?
I just made the point, for the Giants, coming to the MCG, 95,000 against probably the 22 players and 100 Giants fans. It's pretty intimidating. I think you're giving up 4 or 5 goals then and there. And if Green doesn't play...
more than 100.
100 plus, Jimmy.
100 plus,
yelling and screaming with his beanie on. But,
and no Toby Green by the sound.
So I think they're up against it as well as they're playing.
Yeah, I think the Giants have just got to maintain that brutal form, which has now become a trademark. Try and win the game in close, and then look, be brave. Collingwood are a super side. They're a different Collingwood side that played the Giants. Moore and these sort of guys in the back line. So they look a lot stronger side than last time the Giants played them.
Okay, show us your footy family and win a 2019 Toyota AFL Grand Final package thanks to Virgin Australia, which includes 6 tickets to the big game, flights and accommodation. And for more, head to afl.com.au/footy family and get in fast. The competition closes September 20. Now, time for the Access Big Ask. The first one's to both of you. Who is more important to their side's preliminary final chances, Toby Green or Tom Hawkins?
I think we highlighted throughout the show Tom Hawkins.
Yeah, nearly one of the toughest questions of the year, but Hawkins as well.
Yep. To both, were the semi-finals over officiated by the umpires?
Yes.
Yes, and very poorly as well, I thought, the umpiring.
Tend to agree. Lloydie, this one's to you. What grading do you give the Brisbane Lions season?
I'll give them a B+, I thought.
And Jimmy, what do you give West Coast's season?
A B for me.
Lloydie, what percentage would you play Dusty midfield and forward this Friday night?
There's still got to be surprise factor forward, so I'd go 70% midfield and 30% forward. Yeah.
Jimmy is offering multi-year deals to players who are 30 and older, as the Kangaroos have done with Todd Goldstein. Too big of a risk?
I think all it is the devil in the detail. Whatever trigger clauses, games played, all that sort of stuff. So I think it's just in the details of the clause. Damo, has the Australian public taken mercy on Willie Rioli?
Yeah, it has. There's one certainty that Australians will do. We loathe as a nation sports users of drugs or sports people who get in trouble with drug testing. If they're Australian, though, we turn a different opinion on them and we get very sympathetic. And I think it's wrong how we approach those matters as a nation. This one to both of you. Describe Luke Hodge in one word.
Legend.
Warrior.
There you go.
That's your name, isn't it?
Not Warrior. Amazing kid. 3, 4, 6 games and finished. And look, coaching system of sorts and a coach in waiting if he chooses to be. Lloydie, thank you. And Jimmy, thank you. And thanks for joining us on Access All Areas, brought to you by Virgin Australia. Have a good week and enjoy the finals, and we'll see you next Monday. Goodbye.